Chosen one. Have you ever wondered what's hidden deep within your bloodline? The truth is darker than you could ever imagine, something your ancestors have kept secret for generations. But now, it's all about to come to light. Are you ready to uncover the mysteries that have been buried for centuries? The secrets that could change everything you thought you knew about yourself? Brace yourself, because what you're about to discover will shake you to your core. From as far back as you can remember, you've felt it. That quiet, persistent tug at your soul, the subtle whisper that something more awaits you. It's not just a fleeting thought or a passing daydream. It's a deep, undeniable sensation that you're different. When you were younger, you tried to ignore it. You convinced yourself it was just your imagination running wild, a trick your mind played on you when the world around you felt too small. But as you grew, so did the feeling. It wasn't just in the silence of the night or in the lonely corners of your mind. It was everywhere. You walked through life, surrounded by people who seemed so sure of who they were, so grounded in their place in the world. Yet every time you looked in the mirror, you couldn't shake the feeling that you didn't quite fit, that there was something more inside of you, something powerful, waiting to be awakened. You'd catch yourself staring at the stars, wondering if they were calling to you, or listen to the wind as it rustled the trees, and you'd feel, just for a moment, that it was speaking directly to you. And yet, despite all this, you still doubted. Could it really be true? Could you really be destined for something beyond what the world had laid out for you? Or was it just the longing of a restless heart, seeking meaning in a world that didn't seem to understand? But as the years passed, the pull only grew stronger. It was no longer just a feeling, it was a truth that settled deep inside you.
A truth that said, you are different for a reason. The world tried to fit you into a mold, to tell you who you should be, what you should want, how you should act. But inside, you could feel the tension, the gnawing knowledge that you were meant for something more, something bigger, something beyond what you could see with your eyes or touch with your hands. That voice inside you, that instinct, it wasn't just a passing moment. It was the first whisper of your destiny. And now, as you stand at the edge of something unknown, you finally begin to realize that it was never just a feeling. It was the truth calling you. And whether you were ready or not, the time has come to embrace it. The attic was silent, except for the faint sound of your breath as it echoed in the still air. The door creaked as you pushed it open, the dim light from the window casting long shadows on the old wooden beams above. You had never ventured up here much before. After all, it was just filled with forgotten relics, old boxes, and dusty memories. Yet today, something was different. Something was calling you to explore, to uncover what had been left behind. It felt almost like a hidden invitation, urging you to discover what had been concealed for so long. At first, you weren't sure what drew your attention to the old wooden chest tucked away in the corner, barely visible beneath the cobwebs. The faint glimmer of something shining from within made you pause, your curiosity gnawing at you. With hesitant hands, you pulled open the lid. Inside, scattered among yellowing old photos, a collection of antique trinkets and other forgotten odds and ends, was a small weathered journal. Its leather cover was cracked with age, the corners frayed, as if it had been abandoned in this corner of time, waiting for someone to find it. There was something about the journal that felt different, though. It wasn't just an old book. It was a key to something long buried, something that would change everything. You could feel it. The air seemed to grow colder around you as you carefully picked it up, the weight of it heavier than you expected. Something inside you told you to open it. Something whispered that the answers you had been searching for all your life, the questions that had always seemed so out of reach, were written within these pages. As you flipped the first page, your eyes fell upon the words that had been hidden from you, words that made your stomach tighten. The handwriting was elegant, flowing,
and yet there was something unsettling about it. It was as if the words were too personal, too intimate, as though they weren't meant to be read by anyone else. The journal spoke of an ancient bloodline, your bloodline. It told of a history buried deep in the past, one that had been deliberately erased from family records. There were names you didn't recognize, stories you had never heard, and truths that had been kept locked away for generations. Your family, your very bloodline, was tied to something dark, something powerful. This was no ordinary family history. No, what you were reading wasn't just about the ordinary people you had grown up with. It was about a legacy that went back centuries, one of power and secrecy, of manipulation and dark promises. The journal revealed a pattern, a series of events that had been carefully concealed. Your ancestors weren't just regular people living simple lives. They were part of something far more sinister. They had made choices that would shape your life, even if you hadn't known it. They had made pacts, sworn oaths, and hidden dark truths that had been passed down through the generations. The bloodline you were part of wasn't just a simple family tree. It was a lineage of extraordinary significance, one that had ties to forces far beyond what you could have imagined. As you read on, the weight of it all began to sink in. The more you read, the more you realized how much you didn't know about your own family. Your parents, your relatives, the people you had trusted most, they had hidden this truth from you. It was as if they had kept you in the dark on purpose, protecting you from a truth they feared would destroy you. Why else would they go to such lengths to keep you from discovering this? It was as if they knew what the truth would do to you. It was as if they knew that once you uncovered it, there would be no going back. The more you uncovered, the more unsettling it became. What if everything you had been told about your family was a lie? What if the love they had shown you, the life they had built, was nothing more than a facade? The journal spoke of secrets so deeply buried that even the idea of bringing them to light felt dangerous. It wasn't just the lies you had been told. It was the legacy of darkness and deceit that ran through your veins. You weren't just the child of your parents. You were the inheritor of something far greater, something more powerful, and something more terrifying. It didn't take long for the realization to settle in. The power of your bloodline was not just an ancient story. It was a living, breathing truth that had been passed down, waiting for you to find it. And now you had uncovered it. You had uncovered the darkest secret of all. The weight of the knowledge began to press on you, suffocating you with its implications. Could you even trust your family anymore? Could you trust anyone? The truth that had been hidden from you for so long was now in your hands, and you were left with only one choice: to accept it or to turn away. But you knew deep down there was no turning back. You couldn't unlearn what you had just discovered. This wasn't just a secret about your past. This was the truth of who you were and who you were meant to be. The moment you opened that journal, everything changed. The life you knew, the world you lived in, the family you grew up with, none of it was what it seemed. And now, as the weight of this new knowledge pressed heavily on your chest, you felt something stir deep inside you. It was a calling, a pull, a force that had always been with you, waiting for the moment when you would finally understand the truth. It wasn't just your family's secret anymore. It was yours. And now that you had found it, there was no escaping what came next. As the weight of what you had uncovered pressed down on your shoulders, a chilling thought began to creep into your mind. Could it be possible? Could someone close to you have known about this all along? Someone you trusted, someone you loved. You had always assumed your family had your best interests at heart. After all, they had always been there for you, supportive, loving, guiding you through life. But now, everything you thought you knew felt like a fragile illusion, crumbling with every page you turned. Your eyes fell upon a letter tucked within the journal, one you hadn't noticed before.
It was sealed with a faded red wax emblem, the same as the one in the family crest. Your heart skipped a beat as you tore open the seal, the contents of the letter shaking your very core. The letter was from your mother. The words were familiar, the handwriting unmistakable. But as you read, your breath caught in your throat. "I am sorry, my child," the letter began. "I never wanted you to know the truth. It was never meant for you to uncover. The legacy we carry is far too dangerous, too destructive for you to bear. Your father, he had his reasons for keeping you safe. We did what we thought was best." But it was the next sentence that tore through you like a jagged blade. "We both knew everything. We knew what was inside you. We knew the darkness that runs through our bloodline." Your mind was spinning, your heart pounding in your chest. Your parents had known. They had always known, and they had lied to you. They had kept the truth hidden, protected you from it, but now it was too late. The truth you were carrying wasn't just yours, it was theirs. They had made a choice for you. They chose to shield you from the legacy that had been passed down through generations. And now, you had uncovered it all. You had uncovered the one thing they feared most, the thing they tried so desperately to hide from you. The power, the darkness, the curse that had plagued your family for centuries. It was yours. Your hands shook as you held the letter in your hands, your emotions teetering on the edge of disbelief and anger. How could they? How could they keep something like this from you? They had robbed you of the truth, of your true identity for their own protection. They had betrayed you in the name of love. All these years you had trusted them. You had trusted your mother, your father. You had believed that they were your safe haven, your foundation in this world. But now, everything had changed. The very people who were supposed to protect you had kept you in the dark, too afraid of what you might become if you ever learned the truth. The more you thought about it, the deeper the betrayal cut. It wasn't just a simple omission, it was a complete and utter deceit. They had lived their lives under this dark shadow, passing it on from one generation to the next, and now it was yours to bear. The weight of that truth felt like 1,000 pounds pressing on your chest. You had trusted them with your life, but now the truth was undeniable. Your bloodline was cursed, and they knew. They knew everything. A wave of raw emotion washed over you, a mix of grief, anger, and betrayal. You couldn't stop the tears from welling up, but they weren't just tears of sorrow. No, they were the tears of someone who had just seen their world crash down around them. They had hidden this from you to protect you, yes, but they had also robbed you of the opportunity to understand who you really were, to understand the truth of your existence, of your purpose. And now, as the truth sank in deeper, you realized something even more chilling. You were alone in this. They had abandoned you to carry the burden of your destiny on your own. As the tears blurred your vision, one question kept echoing in your mind. What do I do now? The path you were on had just changed. The world you knew was gone, and the truth, as painful as it was, had set you free. But it also marked the beginning of something much darker, much more dangerous. The choice you had to make was no longer just about uncovering the truth. It was about what you would do with it. And now that you knew, there was no going back. Your family had betrayed you, but you couldn't let that stop you. The journey had only just begun. The journal felt heavier now, as if each page you turned added weight not just to your hands, but to your very soul. What had once been a mere curiosity, an ancient relic, a forgotten family secret, was now something much darker, much more dangerous. The more you read, the deeper you dove into the abyss of your bloodline, the more your world began to unravel. It wasn't just the secrets of your family that you were uncovering. You were awakening something that had been buried for centuries, something that was never meant to see the light of day. And now, it seemed, there was no turning back. At first, it was just a sense, a subtle shift in the air around you, something you couldn't quite put your finger on. It was that familiar feeling you'd had all your life, that gnawing sense that you were different, that there was something more to your existence than met the eye. But now, it felt like it was being suffocated, like something or someone was watching you. Wherever you went, you could almost feel the weight of eyes on you. You'd pass a stranger on the street, and for a split second, you could swear their gaze lingered a little too long. People you knew suddenly seemed off, as if they knew something you didn't, as if they were all part of something you couldn't see. But that was only the beginning. Then came the small, inexplicable things. At first, you told yourself it was just coincidence, a trick of the mind. Your phone started acting strange, calls dropping without reason, messages disappearing, and at the most inconvenient times it would randomly reset itself as though someone or something didn't want you to have the information you were seeking. The most unsettling part? You started receiving messages. Cryptic ones. They weren't from anyone you knew, but they felt too personal, too pointed, as if someone or something was following your every move. The first one was just a line of text, an eerie message that sent a chill down your spine. You're too close. The second message came a few days later. Stop digging, or you'll wish you hadn't. At first you thought it was some sick joke. Maybe someone had somehow found out about your search into your family's past and wanted to scare you off. But then the messages kept coming, and they got more specific. They started talking about things you hadn't shared with anyone, places you'd been, books you'd read, even the strange dreams that had begun to haunt your nights. It felt as if someone was tracking you, watching your every move. Then came the nightmares. They weren't just the typical unsettling dreams everyone has. They were vivid, detailed, and far too real. Faces you didn't recognize, but whose expressions you felt like you'd seen before. Places that seemed so familiar, but foreign at the same time. You'd wake up with the sense that something was watching you. The nightmares weren't just dreams. They were warnings.
A voice, distant yet familiar, whispered your name in the dark, telling you to stop, to turn away, to forget everything. But you couldn't. You couldn't stop now. The truth was too close. And then it escalated further. One evening, as you were walking home from the library, you turned a corner and saw him. A figure standing across the street, staring directly at you. The moment your eyes met his, a cold chill ran down your spine. You couldn't place it, but something about him seemed off. He wasn't anyone you recognized. His clothes were too dark, too deliberate. His gaze, unwavering and intense, felt like a weight pressing down on you. You turned quickly, telling yourself it was nothing more than a trick of the light, but when you glanced back, he was gone. No sign of him, no footsteps, just an eerie emptiness. The next day it happened again, and then again. Always at different times, in different places, but always the same man. It was as if he was stalking you, following your every step. And it wasn't just him. You started noticing more people lurking in the shadows, watching, waiting. There were the familiar faces too, but their smiles didn't reach their eyes anymore. Conversations felt strained. People were asking you questions you hadn't told anyone about. They knew things they shouldn't have. And you realized then, with growing terror, that you were being hunted. The phone calls started again, but this time they weren't messages. They were real calls, each one from an unknown number. When you answered, there was nothing but silence at first, followed by the faintest whisper of breath. A cold voice broke the silence, one that you didn't recognize but knew, deep down, you should fear. "You're getting too close to the truth," the voice said, barely a whisper. "Turn back now, or it will be the last mistake you ever make. Panic surged through you, but with it came a fire, a fierce determination.
This was it, the moment where you had to make a choice. You could back away, leave it all behind, forget the truth and the terrible power that had been awakened. Or you could push forward, knowing the consequences. But what choice did you have? The truth was yours now, and there was no turning back. You had started this journey, and the darkness would follow you until it was revealed. You couldn't run from it. The next night, the feeling of being hunted reached its peak. You walked the streets, your senses heightened, every corner feeling like a trap, every person passing by a potential threat. You glanced over your shoulder, and there he was again, the figure you'd seen so many times before. This time, he wasn't across the street. He was standing right in front of you. And when you looked into his eyes, you saw something ancient, something that made your heart race with a cold terror you could not explain. He opened his mouth, but before he spoke, a voice cut through the silence. "Stop." The word sent a shiver down your spine. Stop, and you'll be free. But freedom didn't come from stopping. It came from knowing the truth. And you knew deep down that the truth was something only you could unlock. The question was, who or what was standing in your way? What was this man protecting? And why was the world itself closing in on you, determined to keep the truth hidden? You were getting closer, too close for their comfort. And as you continued to dig deeper, the walls around you began to close in, suffocating you with the weight of what you had yet to discover. But you were ready now, ready to face whatever or whoever was trying to stop you. Because you knew one thing for sure: the truth was too important to be hidden any longer. Just when you thought you were on the edge of understanding, the truth turned darker. What had once seemed like an unsettling discovery now felt like the beginning of a nightmare, one that had been hidden from you for longer than you could comprehend. The more you learned, the more you felt the weight of it all pressing down on you, suffocating your every thought. You thought you knew your family's history, thought you understood who you were, but now, with each new revelation, it became increasingly clear that you were just scratching the surface of something far more terrifying. You sat alone in your room, surrounded by the journals, the letters, and the scattered pages that had led you this far. The faint hum of the city outside was a stark contrast to the chaos inside your mind. The walls around you felt too close, the air thick with tension. You opened the latest journal, your hands shaking slightly, unsure of what else it could reveal. But this time, the words jumped out at you as if they had been waiting, watching, ready to expose the true horror that your family had been hiding for generations. Your eyes traced the lines of the writing. The ink seemed darker now, the words heavier, almost as if the pages themselves were alive, reluctant to give up their secrets. And then you read it. The truth was worse than anything you had ever imagined. The journal spoke of a legacy, one that wasn't just marked by power, but by corruption, betrayal, and unspeakable darkness. Your ancestors weren't just ordinary people who stumbled into positions of power. They had forged their power in blood. Their influence, their wealth, their legacy, it had all come at a terrible cost. A cost that had been buried, locked away, and passed down to you, generation after generation. They weren't rulers of mere cities or land. No, your family had been a part of something much larger, much darker. A secret society, bound by a pact forged with forces beyond human understanding. You were no ordinary heir to a fortune. You were an heir to a bloodline steeped in darkness, a legacy built on manipulation, violence, and betrayal. The more you read, the more the reality hit you. Your bloodline wasn't just tied to a legacy of power, it was tied to a curse that had been passed down through your ancestors, their choices, their actions, and now it was yours to bear. Each name in the journal, each story you uncovered, painted a picture of betrayal. Your ancestors had betrayed each other, sold their souls for greater power, and made pacts that no one should have ever dared to make. There were sacrifices, brutal deals with dark forces, and promises made in the shadows. The journal didn't just describe a family's rise to power. It spoke of the choices they made to maintain that power, choices that required lives, souls, and the very essence of humanity. But the most chilling part? The journal revealed that your family wasn't just a passive participant in this legacy. They were the architects of it, the ones who had set the course for everything that had followed. And you? You were the culmination of their choices. You weren't just born into this bloodline. You were born for a purpose that had been sealed the moment your bloodline began its descent into darkness. The page you were reading now spoke of a prophecy, your prophecy. It wasn't about a noble leader or a hero who would rise to save the world. No, this prophecy spoke of a chosen one who would either embrace the legacy of power and darkness or destroy it. You weren't a victim of this family history. You were the last piece of the puzzle. You were meant to either wield the power your ancestors had amassed or to tear it down, ending the cycle once and for all. As the realization hit you, a cold chill spread through your entire body. You weren't just running from the past, you were running toward it. Every choice you made, every step you took, led you closer to this inevitable truth. You weren't just anyone. You weren't simply a descendant of those who came before you. You were part of the legacy, the culmination of everything they had done, and you were the one who had to decide what to do with it. Terror and awe gripped you as you began to understand the full scope of what this meant. The power that had been passed down to you, hidden in your very blood, was not a gift. It was a weapon, and it could either save or destroy everything you held dear. You had been born to a purpose you couldn't yet comprehend, and the stakes were higher than you could have ever imagined. You weren't just uncovering the past anymore. You were standing at the crossroads of your future, the weight of history pressing down on you. The world your family had built, one of shadows and blood, was yours to either inherit or destroy. The choice was now in your hands. But was it really a choice? Or had you been born into this moment, destined to follow the path that had been set before you, bound by blood and fate? The truth of your bloodline had finally been revealed, and with it, the truth of your purpose. The dark legacy your family had hidden for so long was now your burden. And now you had to decide. Would you continue the cycle of power, or would you be the one to end it forever? The answers were within reach. But were you ready to face them? The room around you felt suffocating. The journal lay open in front of you, its pages now a blur of words that no longer made sense. Your mind was racing, your thoughts a chaotic storm of disbelief and fear. What had you uncovered? What had your ancestors done? And what had they intended for you? You couldn't escape it now. The truth was out, and it was as if it had wrapped itself around your heart, squeezing the very life out of you. Your bloodline, the darkness that ran through your veins, wasn't just some ancient family tale. It was real. It was you. You had always known you were different, but you never imagined this. You never imagined that your very existence was tied to something so powerful, so dangerous. The decisions of your ancestors, the blood they spilled, the pacts they made, they were yours to carry, and the weight of it was unbearable. The questions started to haunt you. What now? What do I do with this knowledge? You had always tried to live a normal life, to blend in with the world around you. But now, that life felt like a lie. You weren't like everyone else. You weren't meant to be like everyone else. And no matter how hard you tried to pretend, the truth of who you were couldn't be denied anymore. But that truth came with a price. Your family had chosen this path for you long ago, and now it was your turn to make a choice. The legacy of your bloodline, the darkness that had been passed down from generation to generation, it was all in your hands now. You could choose to embrace it, to accept the power, the history, the purpose that had been set for you. You could follow the path that had been carved out for you, take the mantle your ancestors had left behind, and claim the power that came with it. But that path wasn't without its cost. It was a path drenched in blood, in betrayal, in the manipulation of forces far beyond your understanding. You knew, deep down, that accepting your destiny meant becoming part of that legacy. A legacy that had been built on lies, on darkness, on broken promises. It meant embracing the very forces that had destroyed everything your ancestors had touched. It meant becoming the next link in the chain, continuing the cycle of power, destruction, and manipulation. Or you could reject it. You could walk away. Turn your back on everything you had uncovered and try to rebuild the life you thought you had before. The knowledge you had uncovered, the power you had inherited, it could all be forgotten. You could choose to live a life of peace, free from the burden of your bloodline's dark history. You could protect yourself, protect the people you loved, from the dangerous legacy that was now yours. But rejecting the truth didn't mean it would go away. It didn't mean the power would just vanish, the past erased. You would still be tied to it. You would still carry the bloodline's weight, the memories of your ancestors' choices, like a chain around your neck. Rejection wouldn't free you. It would only trap you in the lies, in the shadows of your own ignorance. You would always wonder, always question. What if I had embraced my true purpose? What if I had stood up and taken control? As you sat there, torn between these two paths, the silence of the room felt deafening. The weight of your choice pressed on you, suffocating you. What did it mean to be the chosen one? Was it about embracing destiny, or was it about breaking free from it? Was it about accepting the power that came with your bloodline, or rejecting it for a chance at a life of normalcy? The truth was, you had always been afraid of what you might become. You had always feared the power that ran through your veins. But now you realized, the fear was not in the power itself. It was in the decision, the choice that lay before you. Would you accept who you were? Would you embrace the darkness, the power, the purpose that had been passed down to you? Or would you choose to turn your back on it, walk away from your destiny, and live in ignorance, forever wondering what might have been? The choice was yours, and with it came a terrifying responsibility. In the silence of your room, the weight of your decisions settled deep into your chest. You had uncovered everything. You knew what you were meant for. Now, you had to decide. Would you accept your true identity, or would you turn your back on your destiny? You took a deep breath, your heart pounding in your chest. The world seemed to slow around you as the weight of your decision pressed upon you. Your mind raced, each thought a chaotic swirl of fear, anger, and a strange sense of finality. There was no turning back now. You had uncovered the truth, faced the darkness that had been buried for generations, and now, the power that flowed through your blood was yours to claim. But the question echoed relentlessly in your mind. Would it save you, or destroy you? Your ancestors had built this legacy on the foundation of power and betrayal, and now, you were the one who stood at the crossroads. The choice you made would decide not just your fate, but the fate of everything that came after you. The bloodline, the legacy, it was yours to either honor or break. You had spent so long running from it, hiding in the shadows of your own fear. But now, you stood at the edge of it all. The choice lay before you like an open door, and you knew that the moment you stepped through, there would be no turning back. With trembling hands, you closed your eyes. The words from the journal rang in your ears. You are the chosen one. The power within you will either heal the wounds of the past, or it will plunge you into the same darkness that destroyed everything before you. The prophecy was clear. There was no middle ground, no way to simply walk away. You could feel the weight of your ancestors' choices pressing on you, their fate intertwined with yours. You were not just a product of your family's past, you were its reckoning. For so long, you had fought the idea of being chosen. You had feared what it meant, what it would do to you. You had resisted the pull of your own destiny, afraid of the power that lay dormant inside you. But now, as the air thickened with the intensity of the moment, something shifted inside you. The fear was still there, but it was no longer the dominating force. Instead, there was something else, something fierce, something unyielding, a fire that had always burned within you, waiting for the right moment to ignite. The power was yours.
It had always been yours. And now, you had to decide. Would you control it, or would it control you? Would you use the darkness as a weapon, or would you embrace it, shaping it into something that could save you and those you loved? You were standing on the precipice of everything your ancestors had fought for, everything they had built, and everything they had lost. And now, it was your turn to decide. The air around you seemed to thicken with the weight of your decision. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in, and yet, in that moment, you felt like you were standing at the center of the universe. You could hear the heartbeat of the world, feel the pulse of the power that ran through your veins. It was as if everything, your family, your bloodline, your purpose, had all led to this one moment. And in that moment, everything was laid bare. You had always believed that you were just a person, but now you realized you were the embodiment of your family's legacy. You were the one who would either continue their path or break the cycle of destruction. The power within you was not just a gift, it was a test of who you were, who you could become, and whether you had the strength to face the consequences of what you were about to unleash. Your breath hitched as the truth finally settled into your heart. You were not just a passenger on this journey, you were the one driving it. You could no longer be afraid of the power you held. You had to face it head on, accept it, or let it consume you. This was the moment where everything changed, and you knew deep down that this was the moment you were always meant to face. The world outside seemed to hold its breath, and in the quiet, you made your choice. You chose to embrace it. In that instant, the power surged within you, like a torrent of energy awakening from a deep slumber. You could feel it, coursing through your veins, overwhelming you, transforming you. It was as though the very essence of your ancestors flowed through you. Their power, their mistakes, their triumphs, all now a part of you. And for the first time, you didn't feel like a victim of fate. You felt like a force of destiny. But with that power came a price. You could already feel the weight of it, the knowledge that the path ahead would be fraught with darkness, with choices that would test every part of who you were. You had unleashed something unstoppable. The question now wasn't whether you could control it, it was whether you could survive it. As the power surged through you, the room around you began to tremble, the walls vibrating with energy. You could feel it, something ancient, something vast, awakening. And you realized that the journey was far from over. This was just the beginning. The choices you would face, the battles ahead, they would define not just your fate, but the fate of everyone around you. And as the power surged, you whispered to yourself, "I am ready." But in the back of your mind, a darker thought lingered. What if the truth had always been right? What if this was all meant to be? Your rise, your fall, your destiny. You had chosen, and now there was no going back. The power surged through you, but with it came a deep, suffocating realization. You had embraced your destiny, but now you had to face the consequences. It wasn't just the truth you had uncovered. It was everything that came with it. The power, the knowledge, the weight of the choices that lay before you. The world felt different now. The air around you seemed thicker, more charged. You could feel the energy pulsing beneath your skin, just beneath the surface. And yet it wasn't the relief you had expected. There was no sense of victory, no overwhelming joy, only the crushing knowledge that what you had unlocked was more than just power. It was responsibility. It was a burden. And now, there was no turning back. As you stood there, alone with the weight of your decision, the room felt smaller, the shadows deeper. You could feel the eyes of your ancestors on you, watching, waiting, judging. You were no longer the person you had once been. You had embraced the legacy, the darkness, and the power that came with it. But with that embrace came the knowledge that you had crossed a line, and now there would be no escaping it. What would you do with this power? What would you do with the bloodline that had been passed down to you? Could you control it? Could you use it for good, or would it consume you, just as it had consumed so many before you? The question gnawed at your soul, a constant reminder that your destiny was now sealed. The truth had changed everything, but now you had to live with it. There was no turning back, no way to undo the choices you had made. The world outside your door was waiting for you, but it no longer felt familiar. The streets you once walked, the people you once knew, now felt like a distant memory. You had stepped into something much bigger, something that would demand everything from you. The power you had unlocked could either save you or destroy you. It was up to you to decide how you would wield it. But deep down, you knew the answer. The power was yours to command, but at what cost? You had chosen to face the truth, to embrace your destiny, and now you had to live with it. There was no easy way out. The road ahead would be filled with challenges, with sacrifices, with moments where you would question everything you had done. And as you took your first steps into the unknown, a haunting thought lingered in the back of your mind. Had you truly made the right choice? Or had you sealed your fate the moment you decided to embrace the darkness that was always meant to be yours? The truth had changed everything, and now you must live with the consequences. The journey is just beginning, and only time will tell if you are the one to control the power, or if the power will control you.